A flooded home or business is never easy to deal with. The memories that are lost that you cannot replace. An aquadam can be another tool in your arsenal to protect your home or business from the hurricane storm surge or the king tides. Look us up online at aquadam.net or give Aquadam a call at 707-764-2119. We can help.
Consider advertising on the Opperman Report. We have excellent advertising rates for you. The advertising rates are very affordable. Once your ad goes up and we play the show on the podcast and on the YouTube channel, those ads stay up there forever. And then we play repeats every single night of classic Opperman Report shows. And your new ads will be inserted into those repeats that play every single night. So the saturation is incredible, and the rates are very affordable. Contact me at oppermanreport@gmail.com. If you're in for the fight of your life, stop screwing around and contact KMD Law. Available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Just log into kmdlaw.com, or you can call toll-free 833-4KMD-LAW. It doesn't matter how imposing the opposition may be, because the team at kmdlaw.com are battle-tested and fierce. They will not stop until justice prevails. Contact KMD Law. Emailrevealer.com. Go to emailrevealer.com. We handle adoption investigations, infidelity investigations, email tracing, locate or identify somebody from as little as an anonymous email address. Someone owe you money? Back child support? We can find that deadbeat and even assist you in obtaining a judgment and recover that judgment for you. Emailrevealer.com. Digital forensics, computer forensics, cell phone forensics, recover deleted text messages. Create a report that you can use in court. Emailrevealer.com, 800-572-9762. Hey guys, if you like the show and you want to show your support, check out the Opperman Report Patreon. We have all the shows that you hear Monday through Friday on AM/FM radio, but we cut out the ads, so you can hear that content ad-free. The Opperman Report Patreon, you should stop there once a day and check out what's going on over there. That's Opperman Report Patreon.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your Opperman Report host. My name is Opperman. The show is called Opperman. Opperman. The Patreon's called Opperman Report. The company's called Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can get a hold of me there at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Word of the day is Opperman. Jeez. Okay, anyway. Welcome to the show. Check out the Patreon. Check out our TikTok, Ed Opperman TikTok. Did a great interview today with David K. Johnson, and the reason for that is because of the TikTok. Put together a TikTok, not me, all my TikTok volunteers. Put together a TikTok about the David K. Johnson story he told last time he was on a show about Trump's helicopter pilot who was a drug dealer who got a sweetheart deal with Trump's sister, the judge, who was appointed by Roy Cohn, the fixer. And David K. Johnson saw the TikTok, and I've been trying to get this guy back a long time, but he saw this on the TikTok because you tag their name, you know. And I remember even when I was putting the little name tag in there with the David K. Johnson tag, I figured, who's looking for David K. Johnson? Just get out of it. But I guess he looks for himself, and he found it, and he gets a hold of me, and he starts telling me again about the helicopter pilot. I said, okay, great, man. I'm going to come back on the show. Can we do it? He goes, yeah, let's do it. So I bring him on today. And we get into all great details about the Trump litigation in New York, the Stormy Daniels litigation, tax returns, all kind of great stuff. I got a whole, usually, man, I tell you, when there's this many notes on my pad in front of me, I know it's a good interview. But right smack in the middle of the interview, I'll give you a little background first. When I interviewed him the first time, it was around 2015, and I wasn't publicly talking about my involvement in the Epstein case. I was talking about Epstein on the radio, and I was talking about Trump and Epstein on the radio, but I wasn't talking about any personal involvement. And I said to him, I said, hey, what do you know about Trump and Epstein? He goes, oh, and Epstein hadn't been arrested yet. He goes, oh, I don't get into any kind of salacious personal information about when I'm investigating Trump. But he kind of scolded me, I remember I was a little taken aback. He was kind of scolding me. And this time, out of the friggin' blue, he says, oh, and when Trump had his casinos in Atlantic City, he was comping rooms to 15 and 16-year-old teenage kids to come gamble and drink and get comped rooms at his casinos in Atlantic City. Now, that's never been said out loud anywhere, okay, before. I looked for it. It's in one of his books, I believe. But so far, that's not out there, man. That's some golden information. You could find that interview. It's right now, tonight, in the Opperman Report Patreon. You can check it out there. I think it's in a $5 section. You can go there. But then you get all the content we have there. It's like thousands of hours of content up on there. More than... I don't think there's a Patreon out there that's even close to the content that I have. And you could find my first interview with David K. Johnson. You would recognize David K. Johnson if you saw him. It's David C-A-Y Johnson. It's not the letter K. And you see him all the time whenever there's an episode about Trump or tax returns or something like that. He's on all the talking head TV shows. Won a Pulitzer Prize, this fellow here. Really, really good. And he's like a man of the people, too, when it comes to IRS and stuff like that. He taught me a lot of tricks about the IRS. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that. But anyway, so great show. You can find our first interview is in Spreaker at our archives at Spreaker.com. I do a live show every Friday night, 8 p.m. And there's a chat room. You get an email notification when we put up new content. It's free to join. And so every Friday night, I'll do a live show and then 2 brand new podcasts right after the show. Tonight it's going to be Mr. Kuzmarov from CovertActionMagazine.com. Warmonger, how Clinton's malign foreign policy launched a U.S. tragic. Can't read the rest. And the other one is Richard Otto, The Paradox of Our National Security Complex. 2 great guests. Okay, I'm very proud of tonight's work and today's work, plus stuff I'm doing off the air. That's why I'm in a good mood, which is very rare these days. All my situation. In fact, right before I was doing a show, I was talking to Vic and telling her about all the stuff I did today, man. Really, really, a lot of good stuff, man. I'm really proud of myself. So, then I'm going to have 2 new shows tomorrow. I'm playing a rare, because I got so much content I got to get out there. Can't fill it up all on a podcast. 2 shows out there. One is with this young man. Let me see if I could find it. Jerry Kuzmarov is tonight. Warmonger, how Clinton's malign foreign policy launched a U.S. trajectory from Bush to Biden. I don't know what a title that is. But anyway, that's coming up next. And then Richard Otto, The Paradox of Our National Security Complex, how secrecy and security diminish our liberty and threaten our democratic republic. Then either late tonight or tomorrow, I'll be playing East Palestine, the Unity Council for East Palestine train derailment. Not Palestine in the Middle East. This is Palestine, Ohio, where the train derailed. And Pennsylvania, and all those people are just suffering down there with no help. Marianne Petrie, Dismantling the Family Court Corruption. I'll be playing that. And then Quinn Mitchell, the 15-year-old, Into the Tussle, who's this 15-year-old reporter up there in New Hampshire covering the election. So a lot of brand new content this weekend. Keep an eye on that. Be sure and check out Ed Opperman TikTok. We're getting a lot of play, a lot of traffic from TikTok. If you're out there and you know how to make TikToks, okay, please get a hold of me, man. I need volunteers to help me make TikToks, to play them on your own TikTok channel and on my TikTok channel, because I really, really, really want to blow up the TikTok traffic. Okay, because there's so much crap on there, man. I see these other TikToks, and I'm constantly commenting on them. They don't know what the hell they're talking about on so many things that I'm personally involved in, And we're going to be getting into that tonight, too, because what a week I've had as far as that goes. Okay, let's see what's coming up here. Hunter Biden's going to be testifying this week before Congress. And I have a guest coming up who's also going to be testifying at the Hunter Biden situation there before Congress. He's coming on our show Monday. So a guy who's firsthand, directly involved in all this stuff. Great information. And when I played him, we have a clip that one of our listeners put together of all the shows I've done about the Hunter Biden laptop. All my little clues from here, my little clues from there. He took them all, put them in one big clip. And I sent it to this fellow. And I says, look, man, I know all about the Hunter Biden laptop, man. Check this out. And then I want you to come on my show. As soon as he listened to it, he says, yeah, let's do it. He said, we just got to pick a day. So we picked Monday morning. I'll be taping with him. Now, I got to tell you something, man. You know, Hunter Biden, he says, I'll come and testify as long as it's public on TV. And then the Republican House members, these guys like George Santos, who just got kicked out, just got evicted from Congress, fired and evicted. They're telling him, oh, no, we don't want it. We want it in private. Right? And that's pretty much, I got to tell you, man, I think Hunter Biden is going to do very well when he testifies before this committee. His former partner, Devin Archer, did very well for his cause and for Hunter Biden's cause. And Devin Archer is a guy who was on his way to prison for his crimes. When they started questioning Devin Archer, first thing he says is, oh, well, let me tell you all the stuff, you know, about John Kerry's son, who was doing all these same things these other two guys were doing. And they said, oh, no, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear it. Whoa. I can't hear you. They don't want to hear about John Kerry's son because they're all getting a piece of that pie. They're all getting a kickback on that, right? John Kerry's spreading that money around. This is targeted against Hunter Biden and targeted against Beauregard Biden, the father, you know, whatever his name is. Joe Thibodeau Biden, whatever his name is. Hey, so I think that Hunter Biden's gonna get up there and he's gonna explain to them when they start saying, well, how did you get this energy job at Burisma when you have no experience in energy, Mr. Biden Jr., Hunter, cocaine man? And he's going to come out just like Devin Archer says, well, no, I have no experience in energy. You're correct. Okay, I never said I did. But they would come to me when they had political issues, and I would direct them to the correct lobbyists in Washington, who I knew that I could contact them and get a better deal than they could. And I knew the right ones to use and not the right ones to avoid for the right issues and stuff like that. So I would direct him to the correct lobbyist, which is perfectly legit. It's perfectly legal. So I think he's going to do very, very well. I think he's going to do very, very well. And when they get into that whole business about, well, didn't your father on tape say we're withholding these funds until you fire this Ukrainian district attorney who's investigating Burisma? Devin Archer said, oh, no, we wanted that. That was their guy. Burisma wanted that DA. They didn't want him fired. They wanted to keep him because they already had him in the pocket. So when you listen to the whole Devin Archer, I can't get Devin Archer's going to prison. But when you listen to the whole Devin Archer, unedited, because when the Republicans put it up there, they tried to edit out his last portion of his testimony there. You'll see that there's really a lot of nothing there, man. Of course, listen, Biden and Kerry and stuff like that, they were running around with their hands out all over the world, collecting money from all the different companies, but countries and companies. But everybody does that, man. It's nothing unusual. According to Lev Parnas, who was arrested on the plane, he was headed to Vienna on a plane with Sean Hannity, and Rudy Giuliani was supposed to be on that plane, and they were headed to Vienna to get a copy of the Hunter Biden laptop that was owned under the control of the Russian FSB. And what they would do is they would send Hunter Jr. over to Kazakhstan and say, hey, we got these hookers and we got this coca for you over there. Let's go for a party. They take them over there, videotape them, and they put it on this laptop. And Sean Hannity was involved, Lev Parnas was involved, and Giuliani was involved. But Giuliani canceled at the very last second, and then Lev Parnas was arrested on the plane. And Sean Hannity went there and got an interview in Vienna about Vienna sausages or whatever that was about. Who knows? Speaking of Hunter Biden laptop, let's see. George Santos has a connection to that too. George Santos has this character. He got fired today, George Santos. They voted to keep him out of there. Where is that? Why is my notes like this? This is so weird. Okay, let's try that. This little thing I used to hold my notes doesn't seem correct. Like, let's go there. It's like it's not opened all the way like it normally is. The fellow who works for George Santos, I don't have it here. Turns out the guy he's from Staten Island, and he lives in Red Bank, Staten Island. He got arrested for drug dealing in Staten Island. And right now he's working for George Santos as his aide and his fixer. Okay. And so after his situation in Staten Island there, and he still lives with his mother in Staten Island, in Red Bank, a really crappy neighborhood, he went to work with Matt Gaetz, cleaning up his mess, and then he went to work for Steve Bannon. And the story is that he was the go-to guy. He used to throw Hunter Biden laptop viewing parties. It's also come out, too, that Miranda Devine, the one who wrote the book about the laptop from hell, and everyone's always annoying me. Hey, Ed, can't you get Miranda Devine on the show? Why can't you talk to her? And they're tagging me with her on Twitter and stuff like that. And I'm trying to get her to come on the show. She won't do it. She won't talk to me. She won't come on. She's an expert on the Hunter Biden laptop. Why wouldn't you want to talk to Ed Opperman? I got some pretty good information on it here. Okay, if I'm not wrong. If I'm wrong, tell me, right? Show me where I'm wrong. Turns out she's buddies with Santos. She's friends with George Santos, the guy who's spending $500,000 on OnlyFans. I was trying to explain to a guy today on Twitter that when you see people on Patreon and OnlyFans and they're making a lot of money with really no explanation. A lot of time that's blackmail money. That's what do you call it? Money laundering drug money, laundering illegal money. A lot of times there's some kind of shady business going on with those kind of transactions you see. Okay. By the way, one of the reasons why I'm in such a good mood. Let's see how we're doing on time. Is I got a new client. Okay, I got a new client right now. And it's a big lawsuit. It's a big lawsuit that's right up our alley. The guy who is the defendant in this case is a real piece of garbage, man, like a really perverted, sick creep, that harmed my client. Sexual battery case. And this guy's got a ton of money. And so this could be like a year-long work for me, man. Would be like $100,000? Nah, it wouldn't be. About $50,000-$60,000 I'll get from this one job here working on this case. So it really feels good, man, when you get a case like that it's you're doing the right thing. You're putting away a bad guy, and you're getting some justice for somebody that was taken advantage of, who otherwise wouldn't even know that they had this option. So many people are unaware of their rights and their opportunity for compensation over wrongs that have been done to them, man. And listen, if you had a situation like this, man, you think you need an attorney. Oh, I can't afford an attorney. Call me up, man. Get a hold of me. Email me at oppermaninvestigations.com. Especially any kind of sexual battery case. You were abused in school or a church or any place where there's a lot of money at the other end there that we can get our team on this, and we know there's money to pay it off. We have money to fund it. So many people, they want you to take this kind of work and then, just work, for free, for nothing. And, but that's how it works. You get compensation. Okay. All right. I was talking to David K. Johnson about the Deutsche Bank stuff, right? And one of the things that came out this week is that the Deutsche Bank representative there, Rosemary Vrablic, right? She testified that, hey, Deutsche Bank made a lot of money at this during our transactions with Trump. And we're accustomed to clients overestimating their net worth. So it really wasn't that big a deal. Now, it turns out that she works now for Jared Kushner. Okay, so she has an interest, in pumping up the Trumps still, okay? But what happened is it really doesn't matter, okay? I know a lot of people are saying, she's just pointed out that there's no crime. All of that's been decided already, man. All this business about whether or not he's liable for these damages has already been decided. This is the damages phase. And when you listen to that interview with David K. Johnson, it's up in the Patreon tonight. Trump's got a long road ahead of him, man. He's got a long road ahead of him because they're going to be liquidating his companies. He has no licenses to do business in New York State at all right now. There's a stay on it. But once this litigation is over, man, that's it. It's going to be all in receivership. They're going to be selling everything off and telling him who he could sell it to and for how much. Now, if you haven't heard about it this week, he did a transfer that's in violation of this conservatorship. What's it called? A court monitor. It's not a conservatorship. It's a court monitor. A retired judge is monitoring his finances. And without her permission, he transferred $40 million from the company into his personal account. Totally in violation of this. So I got to tell you, man, I tried to talk to David K. Johnson about, is he competent to stand trial? And he says he is, man. I have to disagree with him on that, man. I see a lot of. You just saw who yesterday with Jordan Peterson? The woman, Rosemary Vladswick? But anyway, a little comment from the chat room there. So, oh yeah, there was a thing too where banks have this thing. It's called KYC, Know Your Client, Know Your Customer. And when you go in to do business with the bank, they have to kind of look at you skeptically, and to check out, hey, well, you do really got a business here? What's going on? Are you laundering money? Are you a terrorist? They're checking you out. So when she was being cross-examined by the prosecution, she says, well, the government has a KYC process too, meaning hey, you elected this fraud. You're looking at me. Why did we loan money to this fraud? Well, you elected this fraud. So that was, I don't think people really understood how that joke went over in the courtroom because I haven't seen it reported correctly. The way my friend told me was the reaction in the courtroom then when she said it. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. I think we're almost ready to get into the meat of the show. I just wish this thing was set up correctly that I could read more easily. It's never done this before. I don't know why that is. Oh, maybe if I get rid of this. I had a weird situation this week 2 times. You know how I always get upset about how people are talking about things on YouTube and podcasts and Twitter, and they'll be talking about my case, and I'll try and contact them and say to them, hey, man, would you like to talk to me about that? That's my case. I'm involved in that personally, but they're too busy to talk to me. They're too busy tweeting and YouTubing and podcasting to talk to the guy who's actually did the job, and they're almost dismissive of me because they've got so many YouTube clicks and followers, and they've got so many Twitter followers. I guess they're ex-followers now, whatever. That they got no time to deal with me. Poo, Ed Offerman. We don't want to talk to you. I'm tweeting over here about this topic here. It was so bad this week that on 2 different occasions, I had people representing my personal phone call. This isn't something in the news. One was about a situation at the Trump debate with the whole thing with Roger Stone and all those mistresses, the Clinton mistresses and rape victims and stuff like that. And a personal phone call I had about that. And they're describing my personal phone call. And when I'm trying to explain to them, no, you got this wrong. Well, this is what I think happened. How could you, what you're imagining what a conversation I had on the phone? This is what we're coming to. There's a total detachment from reality, man. It's insane. I'm going to be getting into this tonight. And this is all part of the whole thing about the Trump the Epstein Maxwell client list, which doesn't really exist. Okay, we're going to be getting into that too. The second one was another phone call. I had a private phone call with somebody about a certain matter. Okay, now this is something I'm working on for a long time. I got a client on it. I got a whole situation. A lot of people know about it. It's all documented. You can't argue with what I'm working on. Okay. And I reached out to somebody for a little bit of help. Okay, a contact. Okay. And when I start speaking to her, she's off the wall. She's all over the place. And I says, okay, this is a waste of time. And she's just babbling away. The person went with a lot of personal problems. Okay. And I see her tweeting. She's got a big following. And I see her tweeting with another person with a big following. And they're talking about my conversation. And they got it all wrong. Not even close. You know? And then another person's chiming in and says, well, is there a link that we can look to? They want a link to my phone call, my personal phone call. And it's so bizarre. Now, just imagine my frustration that I'm sitting here and I'm watching these two freaking idiots, these two big influencers who both get paid for posting on Twitter, by the way. All right, these guys are making a decent income from BSing people, okay? Talking about my personal phone call, okay? And if I were to chime in and say, oh, excuse me, let me correct you. You got that wrong. Let me tell you, I can't tell you what really happened because I'm doing stuff in real life. I'm not sitting around tweeting all freaking day long, okay? I'm actually doing something. And but then I would be considered, oh, it has no credibility. It's my freaking call, man. It just makes no sense. Then there was another situation related to this, and I had to kind of give someone a little heads up and a little bit of a warning there. And just still, because these people just live in a fantasy world, man. They just live in a fantasy land in their head and stuff that they say on Twitter. Totally take no precaution, no concern, no real seriousness of what I'm warning them about. A serious danger in real life to them, and that I'm trying to tip them off about. But it just doesn't even sink into their little brain. Okay, because most of these people you see talking online are just full of it, man. They're full of crap. And just exaggerating stuff and just making up little fairy tales for you to make you feel good. And I got to tell you, man, that's the way to go because people send them tons of money, man. No one's supporting me at all these days. You know, I forget, like maybe $200 in the past year I've gotten in donations, man. To the Opera Report. We get some steady Patreon people, but even they come and go, man. That's tough. And by the way, too, if you have a problem with the Patreon, don't contact me and say, hey, I'd cancel this, or I have no control over your Patreon subscription. That's what you got to log into your Patreon account and do that. I don't have your password to go in and do this stuff. How do you think that works? That I'm on the back end here that I can see your Patreon stuff? I can't see what your contract with Patreon is. God, Zooks. But one of the issues in all this, see, you got these people out there, and especially with the Epstein case, with the Epstein situation, you have these people, these kind of superstar people, these people that are involved. But there's there's different levels of them. Some of them are superstars, and the world loves them. And some of them are like, oh, well, we don't trust this one totally. They don't trust somebody involved. They would trust somebody more who's a Twitter guy, who's Googling nonsense. Well, he's drinking a big giant beer. Okay. All right. And just Googling nonsense. Well, that sounds better. See, when I started off on this, okay, and I did the very first radio show on Jeffrey Epstein. I don't give a damn who the hell you are or who you think you are. I know I was the first one because when I did it, I was Googling all over the place to find a guest and nobody was talking about it. So, okay. And when people started hearing about this stuff and on YouTube, and back in those days, when you Google the name Ed Opperman, you went to Google Images, you saw a picture of Jeffrey Epstein. That's how much deep I was involved in this back in 2013, 2014, years before some of these people showed up that are now experts. Somehow. I don't know where they got their expertise or who they're talking to. Nobody seems to know who they're talking to. But people heard this story and it was just hard to believe. My God, what's going on here? Intelligence background, Patrick Douglas Lease and Hoffenberg and Mossad and Robert Maxwell and dying on a boat. What is all this? Right? And that's enough, man. When you hear all that, that's enough. You don't need to start making things up, man. This is a juicy story. Okay? We don't need to start going submarines and Disney docking the cruise ship off of Jeffrey Epstein's island and all this crazy stuff, man. You know? I'm going to get into all that. But then as time goes on, people that are into this kind of juicy conspiracy type of stuff and hearing this insider information, they like to call themselves researchers because they Google things and they read articles about things. And they think that makes them an expert on something more than people that have actually worked these cases, okay? I spent today, all right, I really blew it on this one. Back around 2018, I was sent Google Drive documents, and I went through this. Look, I have one list here. It's 10 pages, 15 names, addresses, phone numbers, and pictures of women involved with the Epstein scandal. These were women that were either sexually abused, sexual battery, or they were just masseuses that were just giving legit massages. Some of them appeared, because some of them, when I look at them up now, it seems that they're living very, very healthy lifestyles with families and kids and all kind of stuff like that. It doesn't seem like they're had any kind of issues, negative issues in their life that you normally see from people that have gone through this kind of great trauma in their life. Okay, so I got a huge list here, man. Okay, that no one else has it. All right, given to me back in 2018. Just started looking at it now. Okay, but then I really blew it because there's a whole bunch of Google Docs too that now I don't seem to have access to. I need permission to get into them. Contacted the fellow that sent it to me to see if he can give me. I haven't heard back from him. But even Googling the titles and the names in those titles, everyone wants the list, okay? I got a list of names right now, okay? I got a list, all right? And some of these names, you know, when you Google them, you can't figure out how there's a connection to Epstein, but there is. And some of them, their names have been unsealed, and they have a connection to Epstein. But back then in 2018, they weren't unsealed. They were still sealed. This would have been golden information to share with the audience. But I do the best I can, and I get no financial support. What do you want from me? You know, there's all these other guys out there. Oh, that one. Yeah, I hate her. The author of the Biden laptop book. I don't hate her. I would have her on the show. I would talk to her politely. But just, you know, you are the company you keep, man. If you're hanging out in a bar with George Santos and some Staten Island drug dealer who's working for characters like Gates and Bannon, you know, there's a pattern there, I would say. You know, I would call out a pattern. So there's a list of names, okay, that I got. Now, I got another thing I'm working on. I know someone who has Jeffrey Epstein phone records, not the address book. Okay, you know, you got to listen carefully. I'm not talking about the flight logs, which we largely know about. There was this big thing about how some Republican wanted to subpoena more flight logs. We pretty much know who was on the plane, and the flight logs, too, are based on the trustworthiness of the captain of the plane. And we know we can't trust these captains. In fact, I don't know why one of these pilots, I don't know why this guy wasn't charged for sex trafficking along with this other bunch. Because even he talks about what he saw. This is actual phone records, okay, that a friend of mine obtained. And he told me about it. I've never asked him for it. I'm reaching out to him now, and I'm asking him for it. All right? And I think maybe we can put together, if I search every single phone number on it, put a name to it, and what's their connection, and just put together a book about that. So people want a list so badly, I'm going to give you a list, okay? But the list people want is an imaginary list. They want a list, a client list, of people who paid money to Maxwell and Epstein to have sex with children. In fantasy world, there's a client list of people that paid them money to have sex with children. There's a list of this somehow. Okay? That list does not exist in reality. there are people in the litigation, the various litigations. There are names, they could be listed on a list, names of people that have been named as having raped these children, statutory raped these children. Okay, I don't know of one instance where one of these rapists ever paid any money to either Maxwell or Epstein. Well, then you say, well, Ed, then how could you be charged with trafficking if you're not selling a little girl to a client? Ed Opperman explained to us. Providing a child to Epstein or to one of Epstein's friends, that's trafficking. Maxwell was charged with providing these kids mostly to Epstein. So as far as a list being hidden by the courts, sure, there's names that are sealed. A very short list of names that are sealed. We can have that list. Sure, I'd like to see that. But I'm sure those names are already in the public domain. People, they're already out there connected to the Epstein story. We've seen them already. Now, there's phone records. That could be some new names on there. But it's not going to be a whole big list of names and all this crazy stuff that people are making up. So now, in this whole drama, yeah, like I said, you have certain, I'm going to interchange the word victims and survivors, okay? I know some women who have been, or men that have been abused, they don't like to be called victims, they like to be called survivors, but it's just, I'm an old guy, so I may make mistakes. I don't mean to offend anybody. But you have certain high-profile survivors that everybody likes. Then you have some other survivors that people go, we don't really like this one because their politics don't kind of match up with my politics and the way I want to believe things happen. So even though this person's directly involved, this person's been in court, this person's been to the police, this person's been to the FBI, I think I know better because I've been Googling and I think I know this better and I don't trust that one. I don't believe her story. Some stories I want to believe, some stories I don't want to believe. And usually lines right up with their politics. And the name Trump. Okay? Then there's this other crop of people that are just complete frauds and phonies. And they claim, for whatever reason, that they were a victim and they were involved, but that they still... do you have a lawyer? Have you gone to court? Oh, we tried. I went to every lawyer in the world and no one would take my case because it's all a big cover-up. So what I do now is I write books about it and I go on Twitter and I have all these followers and I fight with other ones and I accuse this one, accuse that one. And it's all this big soap opera drama that's come about. I largely stay out of it, okay? Some of these kooks have tried to drag me into it. I had one of these kooks, man, in my first interview with Hoffenberg. She goes on Twitter and she live tweets my interview as if she's the one talking to Hoffenberg. And so many people notice this that they tagged me and says, you're stealing this. These are the same questions in the same order that Ed Opperman just asked Stephen Hoffenberg on his show Friday night. Okay. And she goes, oh, well, he's not the only one talking to Hoffenberg. I talked to Hoffenberg. He doesn't trust her, doesn't like her, doesn't talk to her. Okay. This is reality, man. This is what I got to deal with here, man. It's nonsense out there. But I've been working all day for real, helping real survivors and real victims. Get justice and compensation they weren't even aware that they could. How do you like that? Okay? Not leeching off people's misery and suffering by Googling all day and then tweeting about it. I get a little pissed off sometimes. But we have a situation now because there's certain catchphrases out there, Lolita Express, Pedophile Island, Epstein didn't kill himself, and now release the list. What is the list? We want to see the client list. Oh, they're keeping it secret because it's going to have the names of Oprah Winfrey and Tom Hanks is going to be on there, and all these names are going to be on there. By the way, this is a completely fraud flight list to Jeffrey's Little St. James, too. But there's one meme of a list of people that have been there. That's a total bogus list, okay? The only real list is you've got the flight logs and you got the address book. Those are the only real lists. And there's some names of people that were subpoenaed and other defendants and witnesses and stuff. There's these catchphrases that go viral, okay? Why isn't there a catchphrase about, hey, let's boycott Victoria's Secrets? Here you have Les Wexner, who was Epstein's client. A lot of money changed hands there. He did all kind of shenanigans to Maria Farmer and Annie Farmer. Why isn't there a meme that goes viral? Hey, let's boycott the Limited. Let's boycott Abercrombie and Fitch. Let's boycott Lex Wexner's companies. That meme never took off, did it? I did a whole show about it. How come there was no meme about, hey, what about the Butterfly Trust? Darren Andyke and Richard Kahn, the accountants and the lawyers who were involved in all the shenanigans way back to Tower Financial, stole $10 million, guys, from the Epstein estate. They created a trust called the Butterfly Trust under their wives' names and sent payments to themselves for work done. Painting, perhaps, okay? Or whatever the work done. Maybe they did some landscaping, okay, down there. Okay? No meme about that. Nobody cares about that. Nobody talks about that. Why? Because it's real. What the stuff that gets promoted out there, he never killed himself. Hillary killed him, all that nonsense, man. That's what they want you talking about. That's what they don't want you talking about, hey, let's boycott Victoria's Secret. Hey, where did that money from the Butterfly Trust go? Oh, this Christmas ornament didn't hang itself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Ha, 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 oh, look at me. I'm raising awareness. I'm against child trafficking. I'm such a clever guy here, and I'm into conspiracy theories, and I'm a researcher. Right? These geniuses that don't know a damn thing about what they're talking about. Pedophile Island, Lolita Express, all those were coined by their side. Okay, and that's why you start seeing bizarre things like that blue and white temple and gold dome that was on the island there, man. That was like just let's lure these saps and suckers in with another new thing for them to conspiracy theory about and declare themselves experts, okay? I've spoken to someone that's been in that room. And there was exercise equipment in that room. It was like being used for storage. But if you look at the designs, the architectural designs for that island, for that area, they had planned a piano room, like a music pavilion or something like that, with a piano. And I've actually seen the sketches for it. Which brings us to a lot of crazy stuff, okay, that you hear all the time. One is this bizarre idea that because Ghislaine Maxwell is a helicopter pilot, by the way, but she's also a submarine pilot. She can drive a submersible. She can't drive a big giant sub like the Russians would have, okay? But she can drive one of those little submersible subs. And probably, probably anybody could if you got in there and took a quick lesson. But she was able to drive one of these subs, and she's had some kind of oceanography charity or some BS, man, that all these people put together these things to raise money and steal the money. So they come up with a theory that she was using that sub to deliver children to Little St. James. Okay. Now, just a little bit of research. This is the most stupidest, ridiculous thing you can imagine. How many people could you fit in that damn little sub? 5 people? Tops. Okay, with Ghislaine driving it. The range on those damn things is like 30 miles. Okay? And then the speed, they're so damn slow. There is no reason on the face of the earth to have and plus there's no underground submarine port entrance underneath the island. Okay, the whole freaking island is like it's 70 acres. Okay, the small island, the bigger island has no development at all on it. The small island where he lived, where the home was, it's like a 10,000 square foot home. Okay, which is a big house, but there's only about 7 bedrooms here. Then there's some cottages. Okay, they call them cottages. These were mostly used for the workers down there. There was 3 small cottages, 1-bedroom cottages. This wasn't a place that was holding 100 people or 200 people at a time or 50 people even, okay? Unless they were shuttling back and forth and leaving in a day because there wasn't enough room to sleep people overnight. The employees that worked there were driving on golf courts. And a lot of these structures that you see from overhead video, and so these were storage of, there was a lot of construction equipment on there for whatever reason, I don't know. But for future construction or maybe leftover construction, what are you really going to do? Are you going to throw it away? You're going to ship it off the island in helicopters and boats? Access to the island. You see this crazy meme out there about Oprah Winfrey landed her private jet on Epstein Island 99 times. Okay. Well, that makes so much sense. You heard about that school in Africa. Oh, she must have been delivering those kids over to Epstein Island. 100 kids. To live over there, right? Okay. So that discredits the whole suspicion about, hey, what the hell went on at those schools in Africa? Because kids were raped there. Kids went missing there, for sure. So now that makes that story look a little crazy. Because we hear this other story that she landed at Epstein Island 100 times or 50 times, whatever that stupid crazy meme says. There's no airstrip on Little St. James. There's no airstrip to land on Jeffrey Epstein's island. There's a helipad where you can land a helicopter and maybe put, 5-10 people to stuff them into a helicopter if you're lucky. Okay? There's that. And then there is a boat dock. Okay? The boat dock. That must mean Disney cruises. We used to dock over at Epstein Island and unload the kids onto the island. These are all stuff you hear all the time. They have you saying this crazy stuff to make everything else look crazy. Okay? That when you have someone here telling you, like a guy like David K. Johnson talking about Trump giving hotel rooms and booze and casino chips to 16-year-old girls. We can't believe that. Trump's around the pedophiles. He's never been to the island. Okay? There is a boat dock on the island. The boat dock itself, that's 30 feet deep where the boat dock is. Okay? But the mouth of that cove to get into where that boat dock is has a maximum depth of 9 feet. You're not getting any kind of cruise ship in there. You're not getting any kind of submarine in there. Okay? All right? You can only get in like a sailboat or a cruiser that can fit maybe 10, 12 people on them. There's no depth, okay? And that's like high tide, okay? So that's a whole nother thing that's just crazy, crazy, crazy. All these crazy, that there was an underground base. There was a basement on the island, and Isaac Cappy released a video of I'm going to get, you don't understand, okay? I'm going to get videos tomorrow. And look, this Isaac Cappy released this video of an underground Roman bath underneath Epstein Island. Doesn't exist, folks. Okay? Doesn't exist. And I've asked people that have been there, man. There's people that have been there that can tell you this. But now the issue we have here is that I'm watching now. Let me see. I got to read all my stuff here. Temple subs doc. All my notes. But most of it's just from memory from talking to people. Because when I hear these things, first thing I do is I ask around, hey, what do you know about this? We have a situation now where all this made-up BS stuff about Pedo Island and Lolita Express and how many times, Trump never flew on the plane. Trump never went to the island. Like, people have this imaginary thing that all these crimes took place on this island or they took place in a plane far away. When you look at the charts, and you could Google it yourself, if you look at the flight patterns of Jeffrey Epstein litigation, Prince Andrew, Virginia Giuffre, you'll see they created flight pattern charts as an exhibit. And you'll see very little of the traffic goes to the island. It was New Jersey. It was New York. It was Palm Beach. This is where the crimes took place. Some of it was New Mexico and then a lot in Europe. Okay. There were trips to the island, yeah, man, but this wasn't the focus of all this. It was the island, Trump never been to the island. Trump has his own island down there. We don't know whether Trump flew down there or not because they have their helicopters. Trump has a drug-dealing helicopter pilot who got a $2 million apartment at Trump Tower. Listen to the David K. Johnson interview, man. Pulitzer Prize winner. Okay? Now, I know it's not like being a really cool Twitter guy with a cool Twitter handle, an anonymous clown who sits around all day Googling BS and tweeting on Twitter. Okay? But it is kind of, legit. Guy's a college professor and teaching a college course in law and, give me a break, man. And these are the people I talk to. People that are respectable, legitimate people. I got a guy coming on and testifying for Congress this week. Not this crap. Okay? But we have people that are legitimately involved in this, but they have to cater to these wackos on Twitter, just like I have to sit here quietly and ignore someone talking about my phone call and pretend, what am I going to say?
Because if I say, hey, she's crazy, well, Ed has no credibility. What would Ed know about this? This other person has 100,000 Twitter followers, and this other one has 1 million Twitter followers. They must know what they're talking about. Okay? There's no fighting this. It's just insanity. But some of these legit people involved are now fabricating, forming their public statements to conform to these nuts. That's what I'm seeing now. So, so much of this stuff, this kind of reporting and all this stuff, there's just so much nonsense out there, so much garbage. It can be hopeless and so discouraging. But I got to tell you, man, I'm really not discouraged. I was talking to Vic tonight. I was telling about all the things I got going on right now. Great case. Real legit, man. These are the kind of clients I want to help. This is what makes all this misery. Well, it makes it all worth it, And I am going to work on putting together some Epstein stuff. And if I can get a hold of these phone records, that would be brand new out there in the universe. But then again, man, when you're doing this kind of real stuff, all you get is pushback and stalking and surveillance and all kinds of crap. I can't, blame the people out there for the surveillance and stuff like that and the hacking into the computers and stuff. Because, the kind of conversations I have around here are pretty intense stuff, man. Like, even for me, this is pretty intense stuff, like just this story about, how the Russian FSB was coming up with dirt to plant on Hunter Biden's laptop. Just saying those Russian FSB, just typing that on your computer, you're going to get attracting, surveillance and stuff like that. Plus all the other stuff I've been involved in with the Sarah Palin case and the Epstein stuff, and all this crazy stuff I can't even talk to you about lately. Stuff I had to back away from. The Wienergate stuff, man, like all this stuff people love to talk about, man. And here's a guy that's really been involved, and I gotta listen to nonsense all day long. Anyway, the show is over. I started out in a great mood. It slowly turned. I turned back to my gripes and misery and hatred and anger at the world. So, I still haven't withdrawn my money from Patreon, so if you want to support me this month, I got a lot of bills, man, that I'm not caught up on. I got to tell you, I got a lot of late fees and things like that, and a lot of overdraft fees that I'm even afraid to look at, So if you could help support the work I'm doing here by becoming a Patreon, that David K. Johnson show tonight, that alone is worth it. There's another one, I forgot to keep talking about it. I lost the show for a while about Ireland. So I could find it real quick. Dan Lawton, Above Ground, a true story of troubles in Northern Ireland. About this guy who was framed, and he actually escaped the Maze prison in Ireland and then was found not guilty of his crimes. Great story, great author. Dan Lawton is an attorney in Las Vegas. Excellent attorney. Above Ground, a true story of the troubles in Northern Ireland. You can find that on Amazon.com. There's a link on the Patreon. The story is in the Patreon. I'll be playing it soon. I'm going to be plugging the hell out of as much as I can. But check this out, man, about this incredible story about this guy who did this research and did this work and proved this man's innocence, who was tortured in that horrible Maze prison back during the 80s in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. Okay, guys, but you want to support good old Ed Opperman. I got a donate button over there on OppermanReport.com. I would just love it just to see $5-10, man. Somebody's listening. Somebody. And especially when I see the numbers, man, especially on a Friday night and a Saturday morning, I see the numbers of how many people listen that no one can support. It's just heartbreaking, man. It really is. And then it's always, it's Trump derangement syndrome. False flag. Alex Jones. Sandy Hook. Guy makes like $400,000 a month. Not giving you no BS. All right, guys. Coming up next is Warmonger, how Clinton's malign foreign policy, blah, 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 blah. And then after that, Richard Otto. But two great shows. A lot of content on there. So check those out. Good night.